Connor, thanks so much for joining me on the Surf Nation Football Focus chat. The first one. I bet you're excited.
I'm very excited. Excited to be part of the surf community. Nothing better than talking about soccer and coaching. So love to be here.
Brilliant. Yeah. We've had a couple of chats, and it could veer into football coaching very, very quickly. But before we get to that, let's talk about the club. It's obviously an exciting time joining the Surf family. We're as excited as you are. So talk a little bit about NLSA. Talk a little bit about the background, location, numbers, coaches, as much stuff as you can give us.
Yeah, of course. Next Level Soccer Academy. We're based out of Mercer County, New Jersey, so sort of central New Jersey. We have about 525 players, ranging from 2018, so it was at U7 all the way up to the U19. We have boys and girls teams. We have 28 coaches within our club. So, we like to consider ourselves sort of middle of the pack in New Jersey. You got some of the top clubs, thousands of players, and you got some of the lower ones, hundreds of players. So we're kind of right in the middle, and I think that fits exactly what we're trying to be. We're trying to be a community, family-based soccer club where everyone comes, they feel welcome, they feel happy to be there, they love our player development, and we can really focus on player development because we have the perfect ratio of coaches to players, so we can focus on that player development aspect of the game. So that's what we love. The club was formed back in 2007, so fairly new, about 18 years. I was actually on the first ever NLSA team back in the day, so I've come full circle back at the club where we started. Back in when I was growing up, you really didn't have all these academies. You had your local township teams. So that's what I grew up playing. And our head coach and founder, Chad Bridges, who now coaches at the Pennington School, varsity head coach over there, he was like, I want a little bit more for you all. So we kind of got together, kind of came up with this idea of Next Level Soccer Academy, and allowed us to kind of grow and really develop ourselves as players and get to go travel more than what we were doing. Being a local township team, you don't necessarily have the funding to go ahead and go to all these showcases across the U.S. We were able to do that and kind of break away into that. So it was great, and it kind of started out as only two teams, us and one younger, and sort of to see the growth over the past 18 years, and now you're up to 550 players when it was 30, 35 players. Two teams, now you're up to, I think we're up to 35 teams at this point. And so it's exponential growth just over the past 18 years. And it really does kind of go to show our reputation there. You're able to, grab a handful of players who kind of want to join what we were preaching and what we're showing on the field. So I think that's huge for our club. And I think it's been absolutely great. And I love, coming full circle. Yeah, I started here playing, and now I'm back coaching, and hopefully inspire the next generation to come coach when they're done, come coach back here again.
Brilliant. Yeah, there's a few things there. You talked about that exponential growth. To do that in a market of New Jersey, which is one of the most competitive, it's great, right? There's so much talent, there's so much diversity, but my word, is there competition there too, right?
Yes, there's a lot of competition, and we're so close to the PA borders, the Pennsylvania border. You could throw a rock and you hit Pennsylvania. So you also have the competition not only in New Jersey, but you have the clubs right across the river in PA. So that's where I think our focus on player development, it has been key for us of keeping these players in house and really growing the club as how much we focus on that player development aspect of 3 years ago when I sort of started in this role. I've been here about 4 years. I started 3 years ago in the director of coaching role. I brought over sort of the IDP process, the individual development, plan process. And so all of our players within the club fill out, it's essentially 18 or so questions. What are my goals playing wise? What am I good at? What are my weaknesses? What do I want to work on? And I think that's really helped coaches get into the mindset of the players. We only have them for 3 hours a week. And within the team setting, it's tough to develop individual players. So you're trying to work on team dynamics, system of play, all that kind of stuff. So if we have those IDPs and we can get into the mindset of the players, then maybe we can take 30 seconds of training session to talk to one of the players. And, if what they wanted to work on was maybe their left foot, then maybe you tell them, during this possession drill, maybe you work on your left foot for, 2 minutes and stuff like that. So I think that has allowed us, that IDP process has allowed our coaches to get into the mindset of the players, really get an understanding of them, connect to them, and has helped sort of the individual development of these players and not just the team. And I think our families and players have loved that because it also allows for one-on-one meetings the coaches have to respond to each of the questions. So the coaches are responding, so the players know what the coaches are looking for as well. And then we have these one-on-one meetings throughout the year. And I think that's been huge for us. I think the players love that because now they feel a connection to their coach, and the parents love that because the parents can see, oh, the coach really does care about my child. And at the end of the day, I think that's crucial for us coaches. Is parents are on our side as well. So I think that's been huge.
Brilliant. Yeah, sometimes that again, maybe it's the way we frame coaching over here, or just soccer with the complexity of soccer. It becomes is it team or individual focus? But what you're saying there is naturally when you improve the individuals,
yes,
you obviously improve the team, but you improve the relationships around the club, right? And the buy-in and the engagement with the families.
Exactly. I think that's been huge. One of the biggest feedback we've gotten was, from parents is we could tell the coaches care. And I think that's huge for a club of our size. And I think that's what really, I think that's what we're pushing is, yes, there's larger clubs or smaller clubs, but we want to be the club that's known for really caring about the player. And I know, every club, that's their goal. And I think, that's what we really want to push. And parents are seeing that, especially with these IDPs, especially with the one-on-one meetings. And we also open our door. We're not afraid to talk to the parent also. When I have my two teams, I say, it's the player soccer journey. So my one-on-one meeting will be with the player first, but I'll open my door afterwards if you want to also kind of have a conversation as well. And I think that's helped. So the parents feel part of the process also, which I think helps them. They're dropping their kids off at training. They don't know what's going on. So if they feel a little bit more part of the process, it has certainly kind of helped that relationship between not only player and coach, but parent and coach as well. And it builds that trust, which I think is huge at this level.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's fantastic. The individual pathway is so interesting. Let's go back to your individual pathway. You mentioned there, was it 2007 that you played, which you think is years ago, and it shows how old I am. And I'm thinking like, oh well, that's not that long ago. Yeah. So give us after playing at one of the first teams at NLSA, then talk about what was next for you. Was it college? Was it a different club? Do you always stay in that area?
Yeah, so I stayed at NLSA. So I was lucky enough that my father was actually also one of the co-owners. So he was sort of the team manager on that local team. So him and Chad Bridges kind of got together, the brain trust of the NLSA. So they got together. Yeah.
It started with one team.
Yes, started with one. That was it. We literally just I remember we were at a local elementary school training. I remember that. I'll never forget it. And we get done with practice, and Coach Chad brings us all together. He's like, so guys, we have come up with this idea. We're going to leave. It was Hopewell Township. We're going to leave Hopewell travel, and we're going to go become NLSA. And, I was probably 13, 14. We had no idea what this meant. We didn't know anything. We didn't know, are we still going to be, this team? Are we still going to be friends? Or, all those little things that go ahead in your mind as like a preteen. You don't really know what's happening. So I ended up, that ended up being great. And we would still, NLSA is still based out of that Hopewell area, right? So we didn't lose anything. But it was just one team. That's all it was. We were just NLSA United. That's what we were. And we played. And so I stayed, I ended up staying with the NLSA through high school. So, and my team, back then you didn't necessarily change clubs, I guess, as much as you kind of see now. So my whole team, we stayed together, from when I got there, probably, U12 all the way to U19, we stayed together. So I think that was nice. I went on and I played at Rutgers University for a year. And decided, I went to a small private school for high school, and then you go into the real world of Rutgers, 80,000 students. And I was like, I can't learn this way. It's not my personality, I'll say. So I transferred down to Marshall University in West Virginia, and I played 4 years down there with Bob Gray, who's a local New Jersey guy. So I played 4 years at Marshall University, and that was great. I became who I am today because of that experience, leaving home for the first time, right? Rutgers is in New Jersey. I always kind of grew up in New Jersey, never left. And so go down to West Virginia, where it's night and day between New Jersey and West Virginia. I kind of found who I was down there and played 4 years down there and had a great time of connecting and growing as a person and a player and meeting 40 teammates who I now call friends and brothers from all over, right? The D1 level, I played with people from 15 different countries at the college level, and you would never experience that kind of staying in this New Jersey area. So I think that was great for me as well, and played 4 years down there, and some of the best times of my life, and soccer wise, and playing at a very high level. Back then it was Conference USA, and it's kind of split from, but we had University of South Carolina, Kentucky University, some of those SEC schools who don't they don't have a men's program, so SEC didn't have a men's conference. So we were playing top 25 teams in and out every week, playing players who go on to play MLS. So I mean, it was incredible and a great time for me.
Brilliant. Marshall's become a powerhouse.
Yes, yes. I missed out. They win a national championship like 2 years after I graduate. They just this past year were runners up. Still upset about that. One of those last second goals in overtime. But yeah, they've Bob Gray, who was my coach, ended up retiring. They brought in a new coach, and his recruiting has been fantastic, and his mindset and system of play, and he's revitalized that program and everything. So it's been great.
So finishing college, and obviously your father been still involved with the club. All right. So because when I look at my background, my father was in an organizational role at a club as well. And it's easy to say 10, 15 years later that impacted me. Yep. But at the time, I had no intention of going into coaching.
Right.
What was it? Was it similar for you, or did you have a plan to go right into it?
I think in the back of my head, I always wanted to get into coaching, but I kind of wanted to forge my own path. So I didn't necessarily want to go back to NLSA right away. I wanted to find myself. And so I ended up living up in sort of North Jersey, probably about an hour and a half from where I grew up. And my first ever coaching role was at Drew University. So a D3 program. I was assistant coach on the men's side. So that was my first ever experience coaching. It was just, I graduated and I didn't necessarily get into coaching right away. But if soccer was my life for 18 years, and I missed it so much. I missed every aspect of it, the locker room, just on the field. And so Drew University, back when I was when I was playing, were recruiting me. So I got a good relationship with Lenny Armith, who was recruiting me back then. He's still the head coach now. So I just shot him an email one day. I said, I just graduated. Not sure if you remember me, but I would love to learn coaching, learn it. Just because, as I don't know if it's the same for you, but I like to say I played at a high level, and you think that, you're done playing, you can go right into coaching. You can't, it kind of hit me that maybe I can't. I really can't, because coaching and play are two different things completely. So I kind of got that where I emailed him. I said, I really wanted to get into coaching, but I need to learn. I need to learn the process. I need to learn player management, player development. Because when you're playing, you like to say you're a team player, but a lot of the focus is on yourself, right? A lot of it is. Coaching, you have to worry about the 20 to 30 players on your roster. So I needed to learn that. So I spent 3 years at Drew University, just taking everything in that I possibly could, from the recruiting aspect of it, the scouting aspect of it. How do you plan a session? How do you plan a match day session right before you get your scouting report at the college level a week before you play, and you spend the 2 sessions of building out exactly, all right, team X is going to play this way. All right, how are we going to counter that? You learn about the player management aspect of it, right? The college level, especially there, we had 35 players at a time. So I was just watching Coach Armith. How does he interact with each and every player? Which I think is right. I think you're not going to get the best out of every player unless there is that connection, right? They're not, if you're not connecting with your player, you can kind of tell they don't necessarily want to be there. If they don't want to be there, they're not going to perform to the best of their ability. So I try to just take notes, do whatever I can to really understand how to coaching. And I do appreciate it was him and Alan McClintock was his number 2.
Alan McClintock, what a guy!
Yes, I love him. Right, but all I did was just watch them, and they gave me a leash to also learn. Like they would allow me to start running sessions on my own, and I was still young and inexperienced, thought I could take over the world when I definitely couldn't. But they allowed me to kind of grow into myself. Then they started handing off some of the scouting for our opposition. So then that's what grew my love of tactical analysis and breaking down teams. Because then I was every day I was watching our opponents play, and it really just kind of grew that. So that really, because I don't know if I would have had that ability if I jumped right into club, because I think club and coaching is a little different, especially at the club level. It's tough to, I guess, have a mentor because a lot of it is individual. Like you rarely have assistant coaches at the club level. There's not, that much money in it that you're getting assistant coaches. So I think at least being at the club level and just watching how they handled their business and how they coached and all that stuff, I think really, I don't know if I would be where I am coaching wise today without the two of them, Alan and Lenny.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't think college. I think college, obviously, everyone has a perception of college, and I think college football, and March Madness presents this, the chaotic side of college, which you know as well as I do. But there's also a side of college coaching, especially in the soccer, that because you're not in that 9-month, 10-month season, there's a lot of holistic development. Coaches become father figures, mentors, real high support level, and I think it sounds like that impacted you. But your level of awareness then to say, okay, I need to learn. What I'm fascinated about is, okay, well, what then brought you? What made you say? Because obviously there's a side of it that's like, okay, where do I want to focus my holistic development piece? Why did you? What opted against staying in the college space? Was there anything there that you thought, I'd be more suited to a different environment, or what was your thinking?
I think for me, I wanted, as much as I love the college game, I think they're coming in so prepared. Like, I think you're more tweaking for your opponents than you are. I don't want to say you're not developing players. You definitely are. But I think you can develop players more, obviously, at the club level. You're helping shape and mold the players. I think that's what I loved about the game. That's what I loved about my club coaches. They definitely helped shape me. And so I wanted to kind of do that same thing. I wanted to shape players. I wanted to help them achieve their goals of whatever their goals are going to be. If it's going to go be playing at the college level, or if it's just going to be having one heck of a club career. I wanted to help them sort of achieve that at the younger age group. And I just loved the player development aspect of it. And that's not to say that college coaches, they obviously do. Like I learned so much at the college level, but a lot of it is about winning games at the college level. Obviously, that's what these coaches are. At the end of the day, they're being paid on wins and losses, not so player development wise. So I think that was I wanted to develop the players. So that was my thing. Is all right. And I think that's what I sort of watch is, what does it take to be a college player, and then I could then use that to then help my players. All right, so I saw for 3 years 60 players come in and out of the door between graduation, transfer, whatever the case may be, and 58 of them all have this trait. All right, well then I've seen this, and so I try to, guide my players to kind of pick up on that kind of stuff and little things like that. So I think it was just more the player development aspect of it, and that's not to say like maybe one day I'll get back in the college game, if I've done maybe everything I possibly could at the club level. But I just love sort of the club aspect of the player development side of it.
Yeah, go back in when there's an extended season so you can actually do a bit more.
Right.
Yeah, I was in college for 15 years, and I saw it as much as we all are intrigued and passionate about development. It's hard to go into a weights room in February and say, this matters.
Right. Yes.
And really, in your back of your mind, the more you understand about football and context and alignment, the bench press actually doesn't matter this morning. It actually couldn't matter less.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I still remember my college days of waking up at 6 a.m. and you're going to lift with like the football strength and conditioning coordinators, and they're running you through like an American football workout, and you're like, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily need this to be battling for 50-50 balls, but
Connor, like, and I obviously like, I would be, no, I'm not the science person, but when I'm chatting to those S&C coaches, I say, okay, well, can we make the actions more soccer specific?
Right.
And the amount of times I heard this line, I'm sure you heard it too. Hey, power is power in any sport.
Yeah, I think we finally got, when I was in college, my senior year, we finally got one that was more dedicated to what they would call Olympic sports.
Yeah.
So Olympic sport strength and conditioning. So we no longer had the football strength and conditioning coordinator. We had Olympic sports, but yeah, that's exactly what we were hearing all the time.
Brilliant. All right, let's go back to NL. I've gone off on a massive tangent there. Let's go back to NLSA. Okay, so the growth, the exponential growth 28 coaches you've got.
Yep.
Talk about the breakdown in, all right, coach recruitment is just as big a challenge sometimes as player recruitment. So talk about where those coaches have come from and their journeys.
Yeah, so we've been lucky enough, and I think that kind of goes back to the family aspect of it. We probably have 5 coaches who played at NLSA or have taken part, and we host camps, who have taken part in camps that we've hosted, who have come back around and said, I had a great experience here. Can I pass it on? Which I think we take pride in that. I think we host like open houses and stuff for new parents. And one of the slides we put in is we have 5 coaches who have all come back here. So what does that make up? Maybe like a fifth of our coaching staff are coaches who have played here, who have come back around. So I think that's been awesome. And a lot of it is personal connections, right? So Brian Thompson, our club director, he's been great. And so he's had club world for a while now, and he's met and learned from a lot. And he's brought in a handful of coaches who he's worked with in the past. So they've been jumping over, but a lot of it is connection based of who we've come across and we've seen, and then we're like, we have this product here. We're focused on this player development. We've seen what you were able to do. We'd love for you to kind of join us. And then sort of the past couple years since I've been in this role, we get emails, and I think it's great, and I think it shows our reputation. We get emails all the time from coaches saying, I've seen your teams play, or I've heard great things about you, about your staff and about your club, and I'd love to be a part of that. So a lot of it has been coaches who have seen us play, or our coaches have interacted on the sidelines and have come to us and said, I want to be a part of that too. And I think that's also helped us grow, because then you have full buy-in from coaches because they've seen it ahead of time and they know exactly what we're trying to do as a club, and they're buying into that ahead of time. And then they're joining us and they're kind of growing through this program. And we've tried to add on a lot of coaches right out of college too. So a lot of we probably have 5 or 6 who have come right out of college, who have played at a high level, who have joined us and are coaching some of our second or third teams. And it's just a learning process, and they've grown and they've watched, and we've tried to do some mentorship type things within the club. But I think that's a lot of it. A lot of it has been players coming back around. A lot of it has been coaches who have seen us and who want to join in and be a part of this. And I think a great thing about us too is we don't have a lot of turnover in our coaching staff. Our coaching staff stays for a while. They stay for a while, which also kind of helps, because you have this fluctuation between coaches. Parents never know what exactly is happening, and a lot of our coaches stay through. They might grab them at a U10 level, and they're seeing them out through the U19 level, which is fantastic, because then players also want to stick around because they know, all right, I know this coach. He's I trust him or I trust her. And they want to stick around as well. So I think that's been huge for us, is sort of coaches are sticking around. They're growing within the club also, so they feel a part of it because they've been here for 10 of the 18 years, right? And I think that's been great as well. So I think our coaching staff is just consistent and doing the best they can to kind of live up to our reputation.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's so powerful to hear that, because coach retention is something we player retention and parent education, and it's sometimes labeled as coach development, but the coaches need to keep improving. But coach support is a big part of that, where you have to know that. Talk about that. Go a bit deeper in that, and if you can, and say, okay, well, how does that family? What are some things to get that family feel for a coach? Like, how do you support that coach who, obviously, you've got a range of coaching 2-3 teams, you've got the parent coach. Like, how do you get around as many people as possible and provide that support?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just open and honest communication. So constant check-ins, constant. We use Slack, whatever organizations use Slack, and we have a trainers only channel, but we also have individual channels with coaches, so we can how does your games go this weekend, and if coaches see that you care, right? I think it's the same as the player. The players see that you care, then they're going to be bought into the process. Coaches see that you care, it's going to be the same thing. And we really do care about our coaches. We host holiday parties. We just, we had one as couple weeks ago at a brewery, and that was awesome. All the coaches got together and got to hang out and kind of take a step off the field and actually interact as right when you're on the field, you're interacting as coach to coach, but you step off the field now are person to person, and you build that trust and that connection. And then we've been trying, a lot of our coaching staff. You get a lot at the club level. They work that 9 to 5, right? So we try to provide as many resources as possible, right? Last year we did a coaching mentorship type thing where Brian and I put the coaches in various groups based on experience and stuff like that, and then we just ran through a couple different presentations and stuff like that, and the coaches got to work together in their groups of we probably did 4 groups, or probably groups of 6 or 7, and they stay with those groups for 6 months. And you kind of work on a little bit of, presentations were on game models and systems of play, but it just gets them thinking and gets them really interacting with one another. Because what's great about soccer is every coach has a different point of view on how the game should be played. So you get them all in a room and you kind of hear them talking back and forth of, I'll do this, but no, I think that this is better. But it builds that connection that they wouldn't have had on the soccer field, because, on the soccer field, you see each other, but it's short talk. It's a 5-second, hi, how are you? I got to go get to my training. But now you get them in a room, and now they're all talking for an hour and a half, and it builds that connection. And and I think that's key, right? If you feel like you're part, and family is about connection, right? Family, you feel connected to one another. So if all the coaches feel connected to one another, then you build that family atmosphere. We provide the resources as much as possible with the mentorship program. You and I had a conversation about this earlier. I built out, using Tactical Pad, I built out sessions and stuff like that I've shared with the coaches. So I think just trying to allow them we give them all the freedom in the world, right? We trust them completely. But if you need help, we are here. We are here. If parent issues, player issues, everything you're going to come across on the club level, we will always have your back, and we'll be there to support you. And then here are also some resources. Use this mentorship program, or use these sessions that I've built out. And if you're in a rush, or this is now your 6th training session of the week, right? And you've kind of run out of ideas at this point. Take one of these sessions. So I think that's the connection. And, as with any person, right? If you feel that connection, you feel like you're part of something special, you build that connection, you build that family atmosphere. And I think that's why our coaches stay, right? Some of the coaches that leave, most of them are, my time has come, right? I want to go focus on my family. I want to focus on my kids. It's not, I'm going to go change clubs. Right. So I think that's also kind of how we look at retention. Like, it's not just, I think it's more retention to me. It's more, are your coaches leaving for other clubs? Ours aren't. You'll always have the 1 or 2, right? But I think it's our coaches are leaving because they fulfilled everything they want to fulfill. Now they want to have their personal life. They want to go focus on their family and kids. So I think that's been huge for us as well.
Love it. Yeah, that's powerful perspective on like coach interactive element, where sometimes in our environments it's quite top down, and then when we integrate with other coaches, we're already naturally forming a habit of communication. And you break that by discussions. It's like electricity shooting around, isn't it? It's class.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just I kind of get, we did this last year. I got him up I put up my system of play, and I said, how are you going to beat it? And so you kind of hear, I got him into small groups, and I said, this is how, my 2007's play. I'd love to hear how you would break me down. So I, get them in small groups, and then they write on the whiteboard, and they break me apart, but that's perfectly okay, right? That's part of the game. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. You can't, right? I'm never going to have all the answers, right? So I think, none of our coaches will. So, break me apart, and then let me get back to the drawing board myself, and I'll counter you. But I think that's been great also. And I think that also kind of breaks down walls too. I'm perfectly okay if you hate my ideas, right? I'm not guarded in my ideas. I have full confidence in myself, but I'm okay if, coaches want to break me down as well. I think that also kind of breaks down the barriers too. There's no feel of, I can't, I don't know the right word, but I can't speak. Yeah. I can't come at you type of thing. I'm okay with the trash talk. I'm okay if you're breaking me down, right? That's only going to make me a better coach in the long run. So,
brilliant. Joining the Surf family, again, something we don't hear a lot about is the experience of the parent meeting. So when you said you just had it just before we start recording, so talk a little bit about when you go into that meeting, what type of things that you're prepared for, or you're kind of getting in order for the presentation, and then some kind of things that are just in the conversation, the discussion with the parents. How does that look?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to have a little cheat sheet. So I put together the presentation that we presented to our coaches of why we were making this move to surf. So I kind of, in the back of my head, I kind of used a lot of that same thing. So you kind of go into this parent meeting, and you, right, as much as we think we know what they're going to ask you, you never know exactly what can come into their minds, right? So I was fortunate enough that I did my meeting about a week after the announcement went out. So kind of let them digest the information, let them kind of see what was happening. And so I kind of you just go into that meeting, and I found as the years have gone on that if you're open and transparent, parents will respect that. So I was as open and transparent as possible why we're making this change, right? I think for me, it's coaching development. You and I kind of went through that last week while we were talking, like some of the stuff that as a smaller club, whether it's financially, whether it's time wise, that we can't always provide to our coaches. So we can do this mentorship stuff, but like the My Mentor, like that's huge for us. That's huge for our coaches, that they can kind of get that interaction, right? The coaches newsletter, stuff like that our coaches can now, look forward to every month or every week, however they're going to take advantage of it. So I said coaching development. I talked about player development, especially with the Surf ID national program, like stuff like that. And then just talking about like why, and I think why is the community. Why is every day I see Surf announcing a new club affiliation or something like that. But I think what are we probably at like 60 clubs at this point? Well, it's 60, yeah, 60 clubs, right? All right, you can do the math. A lot of players, right? A lot of coaches that we can now interact with. We can bounce ideas off. We can share ideas. That's automatically making us a better club, right? If we're grabbing new ideas from whoever we're talking to, as a singular club, as NLSA, you are blocked off, right? You don't want to share ideas with your competitors, right? So you are blocked off. I'm not going to go talk to my rivals down the street about ideas. But now we are in a community of coaches, of clubs. Surf Summit will be a great opportunity to go learn. And then I can go, and I told my coaches, I said, everything I learned from that Surf Summit, I will put in an email and I'll send out to all of you, right? So then they're aware, and there might be ideas that get them thinking. So I think that was my communication to them, was player development, which is our number one goal. And even my parents, like I'll tell them, I host parent meetings probably 3 times a year, just with that open and honest communication. I tell them my first goal as a coach is player development, right? And so I think that was huge, the coach development and just the community aspect. Like that fits who we are as NLSA. We are a community-based team, a community-based club. So now we're just expanding that community where we can share ideas. And things like that. And then you always kind of get, the parent questions of financially, what does this mean? What does it mean for my child? Does it change anything as a club? And so we were great kind of talking to Andy and everything like that we can still run NLSA as NLSA. We don't have to change anything, right? We're changing our jerseys, right? Which is, hey, I'll say this, hopefully not everyone's, I'm a Nike guy, not an Adidas guy. Like I played, my Marshall was Nike. I have all this Nike stuff that I can never wear, right? And I think, we're switching little things that don't necessarily, it's not going to impact who we are, or it doesn't impact our brand. Yeah, we have a new logo. We're NLSA Surf, not just NLSA, or Nike and Adidas. That's all that's changing. I think that's, once the parents kind of hear that, they're perfectly okay. They just didn't want to change who we are, and we told them like that was, it's not going to happen. We're proud of who we are, and we're proud that Andy and Surf has allowed us to kind of stay who we are. And I think that was huge for us.
Brilliant. All right, fantastic. Let's finish up with our quick fire questions. Well, not necessarily like 1-word answers, but sentence, 2-3 sentences. And then we're going to put this on the newsletter and hopefully get as much coaches interacting as possible. Connor, why do you coach?
So I'll give you 2 quick ones. I think one, you're going to get this answer everywhere, which is why I want to give you 2. Well, I think it's just impacting the lives, right? Impacting the players. I just love teaching this game. Like I'm not where I am today without soccer. I'm not. So I want to kind of give that back to the players as well. I want to teach this game. I want to help them achieve whatever their goals may be. If it's to go play in college, I want to give them every opportunity to do that. So I think that's probably the biggest, right? Just impacting the lives. And I think 2, more selfishly, I guess, right, is I just love what it takes intellectually to be a coach. I love the tactical adjustments part of the game. I love the challenge of, the first 5 to 10 minutes. What are you doing as a coach, and how am I going to counter that? I love that aspect of, all right, you're going to come high press me. All right, I might just drop my 6 in between my center backs and force your 10 to kind of step up, and then I can break a line and play my 10 and my 8. All right, I love that aspect of the game of just, the tactical adjustments, the intellectual side of it of how can I outcoach you? I love that part of it. I'm never going to have all the answers, and I never will, but I just love challenging myself to, all right, you're causing me trouble as a coach. Well, I'm going to take the next 30 seconds in my head to figure out how I'm going to now challenge you. So I love that aspect of the game.
Oh, what a start. What a start. That's a cracking answer. All right, second one for you. You've kind of give us the overview of the journey before, but who would you say 2 or 3 of the biggest influences you've had on your coaching journey?
Yeah, so I definitely talked about Lenny and Alan already. Those are without a doubt. So I'll give you sort of one more. And, in the back of my head, as we discussed, I always wanted to be a coach. So my assistant coach at Marshall, Tomas Olivier, I've never met someone who thinks about the game like him. So even, it's tough sort of in the moment, but I always try to take mental notes of how he was teaching things, how he was thinking about the game. And I still use a lot of what he uses today. Wow. And how I coach. And I graduated 9 years ago at this point, right? And I still use a lot of it. And I think he played a huge role in just how I process the game and how I think about the game. And how I think a lot of the issues that us coaches have is we see things, but how do we teach it? And I think he did a very good job of, he sees everything. He sees stuff that I still can't even see, right? But he was able to put it into words or put it into a session plan that broke it down for us. So I think that was huge for me. So, I think it's Alan, Lenny, and I think even before I even really got into coaching, it was Tomas to kind of help me see the game in a different way and help me learn how to teach the game.
Tomas Olivier.
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll keep it rolling. The next one, is there a team past or present that you model your playing style on? Don't say Liverpool.
Yeah, I will not say. All my buddies are Liverpool fans, so I will not give them that pride. So I'll kind of tie it into a coach that I've sort of admired a little bit. Thiago Motta, I'm a big fan of his. At Bologna, especially the past, I know he's at Juventus now, but his time at Bologna, past 2 years, I think it's how he plays. It's so fluid, it's so positive, it's so progressive that I watch it and his rotations are always he's rotating 3 players at all times. So he's always playing in those triangles. And I just really that's something that I preach to my players all the time is, playing those 3s. So the past prior 2 years of watching him do that, it was incredible. And kind of how he thinks about he got a lot of slack for this, but how he kind of thought about the 2-7-2 formation because he's kind of seeing the field sideways. That kind of opened my eyes a little bit at how you kind of view the game where, as a coach, you're always viewing it one way. So now I kind of get a different perspective of, all right, he views it sideways and he adjusts his system of play to that. And I think it did help him. You kind of, I'm an analytical guy, so I like the stats and everything. And when he was at Bologna, his teams attempted the most passes at any team in Serie A. I think that's how I want to play. I want to be a possession-based team. I like to control and dictate the tempo of the game. Well, the only way you can do that is with the ball at your feet, right? So I think he was able to do that a lot with how he coached and how he played. So that was the past 2 years. Juventus now, they're not winning as many games, but they're still undefeated right now, which I think they have more draws than they do have wins. But I think that for me was a team that I really enjoyed watching when I could for the past 2 years, and I just loved kind of his style of coaching, and also that he was able to develop a lot of prior to that stint. He was at Genoa and got fired after a couple months, right? So I think to kind of see his growth between that moment, take Bologna into a spot where they hadn't been in forever, right? And now he's at what all of us would consider a top club in world soccer. I think that was huge and something that allows me to kind of look up to as well of his coaching journey too, and still at a younger age where you can kind of still connect a little bit because you're always going to have your Klopps, your Peps, your Sir Alex, right? But to kind of have this coach who is becoming more known, but someone you can kind of maybe connect a little bit more to, I think has been something that I've enjoyed watching.
Brilliant. Which player inspires you, past or present?
So, and I'm not gonna start the Messi versus Ronaldo debate, but for me, it's Messi, and I think it's more of why I love coaching, the intellectual side of it, because you hear it all the time, or you see it on just watching him, right? He spends first 10 minutes of every game just walking, but he's scanning the field, right? And you hear Pep talk about him all the time. He's more focused in the game than you realize. Like, he's scanning the field. What spaces can I exploit? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? So, I mean, that's what I'm doing as a coach. Like, the first 5 to 10 minutes of a game is my favorite part of the game, because I can see what you're doing as an opponent coach, and I can sort of tweak if I need to, or I can kind of see, all right, wide spaces are there for my outside backs to exploit or my wingers to exploit. Now I'm going to go take advantage of that. So I think it's Messi. Like, I'm a lifelong Barcelona fan. The first ever Barcelona jersey I got was a Ronaldinho one back in the day. Like, my uncle's full Spanish. He's from Malaga. My aunt has moved over there, right? So I think it's that was the first ever jersey I got, probably like 10 years old. So I was watching back then. Barcelona wasn't even on TV, so I was on probably some random stream on my laptop trying to watch them play. So Messi's always been my favorite player, and then now you can kind of see why he was scanning the field, and back then you're not realizing, you're kind of saying, Messi, come on, get us a goal, get us something here. But I think that kind of ties back to why I love coaching, is the intellectual side of it, the soccer IQ side of it. I think he's doing it from a player perspective, but you can kind of translate that to a coaching perspective as well.
Love it. What book has impacted you?
The Coach's Guide to Teaching. I think that's a huge one. Doug Lemoff, I believe it is. Yeah, I think that one for me, I think it goes back to being naive and inexperienced, thinking I can step on the field and coach. And then I got that book as a gift a couple of years ago, actually a Christmas gift a couple of years ago. And I just love the fact that he kind of breaks out the difference between teaching or teaching and learning, right? Just because I set up a session for 30 minutes and I feel like I did a really good job doesn't mean my players understood a thing about what I taught. So I have to, as a coach, you have to be able to pick up cues or hints or have an understanding of when your players are kind of getting the picture or recognizing what's happening or actually learning the information. So I think that really stuck to me, is there's a difference between teaching and learning, right? Just because I'm teaching something doesn't mean anyone's learning it. And the fact that learning is different for each person, right? You obviously have auditory, visual learners, right? So I started to, every time, I do something in a session, I'll talk about it, but also kind of walk through it also. So all players, if you're more of a visual learner, at least I'm walking through it and you can see it, or the auditory learners, I'm talking about it so you can hear it. So that way my message is being heard by the whole team, not just a portion of the team. So I think kind of getting that grasp from that book has really helped my coaching of just becoming a better teacher.
What aspect of the game where do you think the game's going to go in the next 5 years? What aspect is going to be the most important piece?
Well, I think I'll put this in the perspective of U.S. soccer. I think the game's going to grow exponentially with the World Cup coming. And I think it's not to take credit away from players, but I think in the U.S., a lot of soccer is based on athleticism, I would say. And sort of the European, South American is more technical side of the game. And so I think as the World Cup comes over, I think as players start seeing what it kind of takes at the higher level, I do think the game's going to become a lot more technical aspect of it, and less on the speed and athleticism that a lot of it is. And that's not to say our players aren't technical. Our players are technical, but you can kind of see, especially at some of the highest levels, national teams or whatever the case may be, you can tell there is a slight difference between the technical ability of let's say, Brazil or Spain, playing against the U.S. in a friendly or whatever the case may be. So I do think the U.S. wise, I think we are going to become a lot more technical, capable team, players, clubs than what we've maybe seen in the past. That'll be huge for us. That'll kind of help us a lot, because I do think as the game evolves, right, I think a lot of it now is, I think Pep's done this a lot, right? I think it's a lot of it maybe is robotic at times, but I think a lot of it is, find the right space, find the right pass, find the right, all that kind of stuff. Well, you need to be technical in order to do that. You can't just be running up and down the field. So I think that'll be huge. I think we'll continue. And I think that's something that I've even seen now. Even going back to when I first started 5 years ago at the club level, 4 years ago at the club level, players now are a lot more technical than they were then. And I think it'll keep growing and growing and growing. And, women have won the World Cup, obviously, and that's been fantastic. I'd love to see on the men's side, at least, can we get there? Can we, maybe not the final, right? Maybe not the final in 2026, but can we at least, can we at least be a force to be reckoned with, right? Can we at least be there? And then maybe the next one or 2034, can we, start challenging for that? So I think it will, from a U.S. soccer perspective, become a lot more technical.
Brilliant. Last one for you. Describe your training environment.
Yeah, so I think for me, and it's funny, like when I first started coaching, I never got asked this. And I think parents are now, which I think is great. Parents are now starting to ask me this. So I think they're starting to realize that player development, like I think everyone wants to win, right? Everyone wants to win. But I think a lot of parents are starting to recognize, like, if my child wants to go play college or play pro or whatever the case, like, they're going to have to grow as players. And the only chance, the most time you're going to have to grow is probably in the training setting, in the training environment. So I do get this question a lot. And I think I like to say it's demanding, but it's a safe environment. So safe in a sense that players are free to be who they are. I'm never going to take your personality away. I'm never going to try to change who you are as a player. So and you're here to make mistakes, right? You're here to make mistakes in training. That's how you live and grow. I'm not going to be on you if you make mistakes. You're safe to be who you are. You're safe to have this fun environment that you can grow and train in. But it's also demanding that I do push my players, and we are going to work hard in our session, because we do, all of you have goals as players. I saw it on your IDPs that you all have goals. And if you're not going to come here and train, well, then you're not going to be able to grow as players. And it's not my soccer. My soccer journey is over and done with. I can't, I can make maybe one run now off the field and then I'm done, right? This is your soccer journey. It's your soccer journey. So I will push you to achieve whatever your goals are. And for me, I kind of, as I've learned and grown, I've switched to what I call a 10-10-70 rule for my training session. So we train for 90 minutes. 10 minutes, I allow my players to warm up on their own. So I'll set down cones. They'll run their, dynamic warm up. They'll get some passing in. 10 minutes, I'll do some sort of fun activity where they can kind of get together and kind of have some fun, get the quote unquote silliness out of the way. And then 70 minutes, we're training hard. So that's what I've sort of established in my thought process, and my players now do it. And I think it's been helpful, because I've realized, especially all these clubs, you're not always going to the same school anymore. You're pulling players from different townships, different cities. And so they don't get to see each other at all. So when they come to training, it's the first time they've seen each other all week long. They want to talk. They want to hang out. They're friends, right? Good teams. You have good chemistry, right? You want to be friends. So what I started to notice was the first 20 minutes of practice, you weren't getting much done because they wanted to talk. They wanted to hang out. So then I said, all right, well, how do I adjust myself to allow them that time? Because people are social. I don't want to take away the friendships that they have. That's not my job. So I said, all right, well, 10 minutes, I'll put down the cones, but I'll walk away. My captains will lead the warm up. They'll do, and you can talk whatever, as long as they're warming up, you can talk, you can have fun. It doesn't matter. And then, 10 minutes, we'll do some sort of fun game, right? It changes every time, but at least lets them laugh, lets them connect a little bit. And then they know after that 20 minutes, they know, all right, well, now it's time to flip that switch, and now my soccer brain is on, and now I'm ready to train. And I've noticed, I implemented this probably last year. I've noticed that those 70 minutes, they're fully locked in and they're ready to go, and they kind of understand. They know I've had teams for a couple, so they know my expectations. They know that we need to step on the field, and now we lock in, and we use that 70 minutes to go train our hardest and prepare for our match day coming up. And so, it doesn't, it's not going to work for all coaches, all teams, but at least for mine, it has worked. And it allows for that safe environment. They can use that first 20 minutes to have fun and connect as one another. And then it allows for the demanding part of my environment, where for 70 minutes, they're going to go work hard. And I trust in myself that I can get everything I need to get done in that 70 minutes. Right. So, so that has really helped. And that's kind of grown my training environment. I think it has allowed, I've seen my players perform a bit better now, because now they're focused into training, and it's helped them grow as players.
Outstanding. Connor, I've loved this. This is fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely buzzing to have you on board, and the passion. You can hear the passion, but what I love as well is there's processes around the passion, and there's planning around the passion. So I'm excited to do a lot more of these and to keep chatting. But welcome, and thanks so much for jumping on.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I could talk about soccer all day long, so always happy. My wife, luckily my wife loves me, because I am on the field probably way too much. by just talking about soccer. So I could do this all day long.